What's up, guys? This is Grant Speaks Canes. If you're rocking with you, then you know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button so you never miss out on a video. Guys, if you have any comments, questions, leave them in the comment section because your comments could make a video. Today, I want to take a look at what Todd McShay has to say about our Miami Hurricanes. Let's take a look at this video.
I think if you start with this team, you got to start with they are as expected with a Mario Cristobal team, and they're loaded up front in the trenches on both sides. But let's not fool ourselves. The story is Carson Beck.
Now, I believe globally, nationally, a lot of people are talking about Carson Beck. And at first, that's what I was doing a lot of. I was thinking about, is Carson Beck going to recover from his injury? Is Carson Beck going to be as good as a lot of people said he was going to be 2 years ago? Carson Beck, Carson Beck, Carson Beck. But really, when I take a step back, I say, Grant, no. I think there's a bigger picture that could tell the story of this Miami Hurricanes team this year. And it is, will the younger players that was recruited and developed under Mario Cristobal do well this year? Because I believe if they do well, Carson Beck's going to do well and the Miami Hurricanes are going to do well. So if the end of the year, I tell you that Elijah Lofton had a hell of a year, Armando Blunt had a hell of a year, Justin Scott had a hell of a year, JoJo Trader had a hell of a year. Those are players that chose to come to Miami out of high school, get into our program, and has gotten better through our program. And yes, last year we had Cam Ward. So we were able to say, Carson Beck, you see what we did with Cam Ward, right? Well, if you get a JoJo Trader to produce with a U on, if you get Armando Blunt to produce with the U on, then we can continue to tell the high school kids, you can be the next Justin Scott, who turned down Ohio State, trusted Miami, and now it's producing for Miami. The future of this sport is going to be, you still have to recruit, you still got to get transfer players. Well, Miami has proven that they can do well with transfer players. I believe if those players I just named, plus a couple others, do well, the big story may be in year 4, Mario built his guys and his guys produced at a high level. Come on now.
Carson Beck transfers from Georgia. Georgia doesn't pony up the money to keep him there. We can make all the speculation we want in the world, but I also have sources. Like I just think it had run its course.
Now, what did Todd McShay mean by that? He said it had ran its course. They didn't pony up the NIL money. I have my sources. It ran its course. Here's the bottom line. When Carson Beck left, everybody thought he was going pro. Georgia fans, they clapped. They said, okay, we're going to miss you. Good luck. Kirby came out and said good things. It wasn't till he put on that Miami jersey you start hearing the buts. But he's not a good teammate. But he has a Lamborghini. But this and that. But before he put on that U, it was all, oh, you're going pro. Clap, clap, clap. Interesting.
I think Carson Beck has a certain type of personality. I think there was maybe some. I don't think in a Kirby
wasn't a good fit anymore.
It wasn't a good fit anymore. Very well put. So Carson Beck goes down to South Florida and he brings his Lamborghinis and he brought his famous girlfriend, and now he doesn't have that famous girlfriend, and the Cavender twins and all the social media stuff that comes with it and the TikTok dances, and then he gets the Ferrari stolen or the Lamborghini stolen and all of it.
Here's the first thing. How can a player who only lost 3 games as a starter not be a fit anymore? Somebody help me with that. You mean to tell me I'm QB1, our 2 top wide receivers get in legal trouble, our other wide receivers can't catch a cold, and I'm not a fit? That's a crazy-ass narrative. But then this is why I want to start doing these type of videos, because when the national media speaks about Carson Beck, it's very unfair. because it's not Carson Beck's fault that his Lamborghini got stolen. It's not his. It is his fault he got a Lamborghini, but he earned that Lamborghini. It's not his fault that he was dating and had a girlfriend who does TikToks. This man was on one TikTok with her, and that was throwing up to you, letting the Miami fans know he was coming to the U. I believe when a player has off the field issues that's hurting his on the field, I understand bringing that up. For example, Carson Beck, before a game, was out partying all night. And guess what happened when he was partying? He got his Lamborghini stolen. This man got his Lamborghini stolen at home asleep. So I don't like that we put this. Can a player not buy a Lamborghini? Can a player not have a famous girlfriend? It's not like he's out there flaunting this. The man's just living his life. I would be the first one to call it out if it was the reason he was suffering on the field. But we know why he didn't do as well as he did the year before. He still had a good year. But we got to stop this narrative of, oh, you know, he had the Lamborghini, he had the girlfriend. Those are just regular things. And none of that affected his play.
But what's happened now is there was this like peak of like, no wonder why Georgia wanted to get rid of him. He's a me guy. Look at this guy, you know, social media, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it's kind of quiet. It's in the middle of summer and college football is kind of shut down for a few weeks. And now all of a sudden we're just a few days away. And every report I get, and now I'm making phone calls. Now I'm talking to scouts, and now I'm talking to people there. And it's like, hey, I don't care what Georgia said about him. I don't care what social media says about him. I don't care what people think of him. This guy's here and he's grinding and he's working and he likes this new system, and this new system likes him. He's decisive in practice. He's making reads faster. He's not making the receivers work. The receivers are actually very talented. Maybe that was the problem with Georgia. I don't know. I don't know what the problem was there.
Todd, we know what the problem was. The offensive line wasn't as good as it was in past years. The wide receivers, as I already mentioned, 2 of them got in legal trouble. The other ones couldn't catch a cold. We know what it was. The only reason that team survived the way it did was because of Carson Beck kept them going in the defense. So we know what the problem was. And isn't it amazing that, like, once Carson started to practice and we could focus on the football player, the narrative started to change. But before, Carson was just moving to Miami, and y'all created the narrative. The media created the narrative. It wasn't like Carson was going on podcasts and stuff talking about I got a Lamborghini and a badass girlfriend. No. He was doing stuff behind the scenes getting ready for camp, but because it didn't have anything to do with a practice football, we couldn't see it. So y'all just ran with whatever narratives. Oh, he got his Lamborghini stolen. See, he got a Lamborghini. Oh, his girlfriend has him in a TikTok. See, when y'all know y'all need to be focusing on the football player, unless it's hindering him on the football field. But like McShay said, when you look at the reports, Miami, nothing but good. Nothing but good.
Here we got dudes, and dudes are in the right place. They're catching the foot. You know what I mean? So there's this whole like seismic shift of like a PR of like, wait a second.
Apparently he's healthy, by the way. I mean, that's
the jumping off point. Sorry. Yeah. And healthy. And he's been throwing like full go.
And that was my biggest concern with Carson Beck. That was my biggest concern with his injury. Once we got Carson Beck, I said, I want to see if what the coaching staff, what the medical staff is saying is true. And we still got to see him take the hits. We still got to see him go through a full game. But according to reports, the man looks good. The man looks healthy. And if he is what they're saying is, I'm expecting a good season from our Miami Hurricanes.
And his balls are, and his receivers aren't working the way. So now I haven't seen any of it. I'm just going off of what I'm hearing. I trust these sources, but it's practice, and people have, agendas and all that. But if that's the case, man, do you remember the best of 2023, Beck?
Yeah.
It was so good that we went into last season. He's maybe a top 10 pick. Okay.
Right.
So now we've spent the whole summer talking about Arch Manning and maybe the 2027 draft, if it's not a little bit sooner, and Klubnik and Nussmeier and Sellers and Aller and Mendoza and Mateer. Nothing about Beck.
If I was Carson Beck, I would feel disrespected. When you look at what Carson Beck has done on film, what he's done, the games that this man has won, and y'all want to talk about Mendoza and Mateer and these other guys, yuck. But me, that if I was Carson Beck, I feel disrespected. But me, don't talk about him. Don't talk about him. Because I want y'all asleep. Because when Miami starts whooping ass, all of the lovers are going to come out of woodworks. And us Miami Hurricanes fans will say, I told you so. Just like we did with Cam Ward. Because, guys, remember last year, they said Cam Ward had a turnover problem. Cam Ward hadn't played good competition. And they wondered, would he translate to the ACC play? Well, we saw what happened with that. We saw what happened with that. Now, to mention those other guys, Arch Manning and all of them, it's just disrespectful. It is disrespectful. Disrespectful to a player like Carson Beck, who's already won the big games, who's produced big time in big time situations.
It's like he's got this fresh slate. And now he's in Miami. And within Miami, right, he's got 3 returning starters along the offensive line, including Maui Noah, who's a monster. TCU transfer at center. Depth.
Good ad.
Cristobal unit. By the way, with Cristobal is also O-line coach Alex Mirabal. We talked about Biedenbow at Oklahoma. Mirabal's coached some freaking players too and knows what he's doing. He's pretty good. And what's critical for Beck, who's not the most mobile, who doesn't run like Sellers, who doesn't even run like Klubnik or Mendoza, pass protection. So they're going to...
Guys, where is this Mendoza hype coming from? Our defense was so bad last year. Our Miami's defense was so bad last year that we got this man Mendoza in the same conversation as Carson Beck. Carson Beck can run. Carson Beck can run. Go look at Georgia versus Clemson. Couple big plays came from Carson Beck running. The Tennessee game. Big plays with Carson Beck running. He is athletic. Now, is he like a Haynes King who's known to run? No. But he can run for first downs, and I actually think that's going to help us out a lot next year. But where did this Mendoza hype come from?
Protect his ass up front. And now reports are he's more decisive. Ball's coming out. Knows where to go with the ball. Really likes this system. Okay? Wide receiver, it's a big unknown, just like it was at Georgia. We lost Isaiah Horton. Okay? We lost Arroyo. Elijah Arroyo. Restrepo we lost.
Yeah.
Program guy. 4.85 or not. Right? But now here's my information. JoJo Trader, 5-star sophomore, just 6 catches last year. Great camp. Nye Carr, 4-star, maybe 5-star by some people. I don't do the star things except 5-star for this show and 5-star for Confess Fletch getting out of Ubers. Okay. Nye Carr, Ray Joseph in the slot, a little bit of a weapon. This freshman, I'm just told in the last 72 hours as I'm making phone calls and texting, right? Malachi Toney, a true freshman. Those guys are all young cats. This guy's a true. Malachi Toney could be a difference maker. Keenan Marriott, really.
Now, Todd would go on to say that, can those guys around him step up? And then we see Carson Beck from a couple years ago. And look, here's the bottom line. I'm not going to argue with anybody who says, I don't know who Miami has at wide receiver, right? I'm not going to argue with that. What I will say is if Carson Beck is just as good as every quarterback that was named on this podcast, in this video. So we have him. We know our offensive line is good. Okay. We know our running backs are good. Okay. So now the question becomes, can the wide receiving core from Miami be better than Georgia's wide receiving core? And I can tell you this, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. And McShay mentioned a couple names. JoJo Trader, Malachi Toney. And there's 6 or 7 or 8 that we name all the time when we talk about our receivers. But we will know week 1 versus Notre Dame. But the bottom line is, if those wide receivers and our tight ends, because I do think Beck loves the tight end position, be better than what Georgia put on the field last year, who led the NCAA in drops, I really think that this Miami Hurricane team can do great things this season. What do you guys think about what Todd McShay had to say? What do you think about what I had to say? Leave your comments in the comment section. I'm out. Peace.